Welcome to the Monday edition of Anglican Unscripted, now on Eastern Daylight Time. This is episode 166, and I'm here with the great Englishman. I'm Kevin Carlson.
I'm the Reverend Peter Old, and today is March the 9th, 2015.
Okay, via the magic of Skype, the only way I can talk face-to-face to my best buddy over there in England, Peter Old. Last week, George and I called for the end of the Church of England. It's got some responses, and it was kind of like a little wedgie over there. And lots of people said, oh my gosh, they're finally onto it. How did they know that the Church of England is going to fall? Some people, a little bit more officially said, there's no way this will ever end. And I said, well, I should talk to my favorite Englishman. So what the conversation last week was about border crossing and the effect it has. And Peter here brought up a good point. And let's talk about Peter's point. It's called the big catch-22 of Anglicanism. If this bishop had any problem with another bishop coming over and doing an unsacramental practice, what's the big deal?
Yeah, so this is what I call the Winchester Question.
Okay.
In this whole affair. Remember, let's remind our viewers what the story is. That this Anglican mission in England plant was set up with this service. The plant's called Christ Church Salisbury, and Bishop Ellison, who's a retired Church of England, I think he was a bishop in Paraguay, wasn't he, or something?
Yeah, something. Yeah.
But he's retired back to England, obviously, and he came and he was part of the team who was praying for the leadership of what was essentially a conservative evangelical church plant. Okay, so the thing which hasn't come up in all the reports that I've been looking at is what I call the Winchester Question, which is this. Nick Holton, the Bishop of Salisbury, has said he wants Bishop Ellison to explain what he was doing there, but Bishop Ellison isn't domiciled in Salisbury Diocese. He's an honorary assistant bishop in Winchester Diocese. So what's basically going on is that Christ Church Salisbury, to all intents and purposes, is just an independent church. And all Bishop Ellison is doing is like he's going along to some friends who are Methodists or who are, let's say, Vineyard, or Presbyterian in a different diocese, but not part of the Church of England structures at all, going along and praying for their leadership, right? Now, that's not a strict episcopal function, okay? Because non-bishops pray for other people, right? And it's not one of those episcopally things that, like confirmation or ordination, those kind of
and
things, right?
I do hope that a bishop is doing his daily office.
Well, absolutely. But you see, if we're saying a bishop, when he crosses a diocesan boundary, has to ask permission of the diocesan bishop there to pray, then that basically means that in the morning I go on holiday right down to Cornwall, okay? And I'm a bishop, let's say. Never going to happen.
I was going to say, let's say, for example.
Firstly, I look rubbish in purple, okay? I go down to Cornwall, right? Yeah. I get my Book of Common Prayer out to do the daily office, but oh no! I'm a bishop. I need to ask permission of the local diocesan bishop to pray. Quickly, where's the phone number of the Bishop of Troy so I can ask permission to say morning prayer? What a load of rubbish! So, all he's doing is he's going into the diocese to pray, okay? But he's domiciled in Winchester Diocese. So the first part of this Winchester Question is, why have we heard nothing about the Bishop of Salisbury going to the Bishop of Winchester going, why has your guy done this? My suspicion is that Tim Dakin would go back to him and say, what's he done wrong? Okay. Secondly, and this is more cunning. Okay, this is beautiful. And either the Anglican Mission in England people have thought of this, in which case, well done you. My suspicion is they didn't quite think of this, but this is what's turned out. Okay, if Bishop Ellison has done something in the Salisbury Diocese which means that it affects the the nature of something to do with the Church of England in Salisbury Diocese, that implicitly means that the Bishop of Salisbury, Nick Holton, is recognising that Christ Church Salisbury has a link to the Church of England. You've got in order for Bishop Ellison to have done something wrong in Salisbury Diocese, there must be some canonical episcopal connection to Salisbury Diocese. Okay, it's not going to come through Winchester because we've had no report of any communication there. I'm sure that Bishop Dakin would tell Nick Holton where to go. So it must be saying, well, this must be a proper Anglican plant because it's come via Kenya and then in and the border crossing. So in order to discipline Bishop Ellison, you de facto have to recognise that this church plant has a link to the Church of England.
I know, and that's what's happened here.
It's beautiful. It's utterly beautiful. Otherwise, it's just like a Vineyard Church or Presbyterian Church or a Methodist Church. And you know what? The only people who lay charges against bishops and priests for going and praying with other Christians are Episcopalian leaders. Okay, we're not at that point here in the Church of England yet.
This is better than a Monty Python script. I mean,
it's genius. It's funny. You can't make it up.
So, by the bishop saying, "What are you doing in my diocese in this church?" You are saying this church is Anglican of England, Church of England.
Not necessarily Church of England, but a clear connection. Whether it's out to Kenya and then back into church, back in. But what you're basically admitting is that this has a sacramental, in communion link to the Church of England. That's what you're admitting if you attempt to discipline the bishop. Okay. It's genius. It's genius. It's absolutely brilliant. It's Nick Holton is caught between a rock and a hard place. He really is on this. It's a brilliant plan.
Last week, George and I announced clearly we announced there would be no more Lambeth, and there's no more Lambeth. No more Primus meetings, there's no more Primus meetings. We said there's no more Church of England at some point in the near future. Now, George and I are church historians because that could be 1,000 years. But sometime in the near future, the Church of England will no longer be.
Well, there's still a Church of England because I've got PCO on it.
And I thought, I need to ask Peter. Peter, what is the future of the Church of England?
Who knows? Who knows? I think we've got a way to go yet before we end this sort of current discussion about what's going to happen with the Church of England and where things are going. In particular, there's this whole sort of issue of what's going to happen to the church over the whole gay issue and so on, and the debates coming on that. I'm of the persuasion that we need to be thinking about our lifeboats, but we don't need to be getting into them yet, because actually it might be the liberals who need the lifeboats. And the game's not over yet. And I think the moment that Conservatives go, the ship's sunk and we need the lifeboat, they have handed it over to the liberals. And you know what? There's lots of stuff still to fight on. There is lots of way yet to go. You might think that the shared conversations of human sexuality are slanted in one way. Well, you know what? I hear Conservatives say that they're slanted towards liberals. I hear liberals say that they're slanted towards Conservatives. You know what? I don't know what's going to happen. I think we need to get to that crunch point, and we need to be ready if that crunch point goes against us. What we're going to do, withdraw our financing, withdraw our goodwill, all those kind of things. Evangelicals and traditionalist Catholics can bring the Church of England to her knees financially, and as soon as they realise that, they will realise what a political power that brings. And I don't mean that you should just force it now. What I mean is that you have it as a tool in the pocket. Certainly, well, some dioceses are in terrible financial straits, yes, right? Which have not been caused by traditionalists with holding money. It's been caused by non-discipleship, non-evangelism, just letting churches die and reaping the financial non-rewards for that. So certainly some places like in Cornwall, Truro that we talked about, are and Lincoln and places like that are looking into the abyss. But on the whole, Church of England is not dead yet, and it's not really a sick man yet, though in parts of him are beginning to look a bit dodgy.
Okay, you got me really confused here. Because the Peter Old I spoke to last June and July and August was having this bromance with this new Archbishop of Canterbury. What's happened?
We're still besties, though he never talks to me. What I'm saying is, don't give up on the Church of England.
Okay.
I'm saying pray for the Church of England, pray for its leaders, pray for the godly Orthodox leaders in the Church of England, from the bishops, the clergy, and the laity. And by all means, if you think that you're going to need a lifeboat in the future, then get the lifeboat ready. But there's no need to jump into it at the moment. And in fact, jumping into it takes away people on the ship who can steer it in the right direction. And we saw that on the Ordinariate. Right? We've seen that a lot of godly men and women have gone in that direction. We have lost them. And if conservative evangelicals in particular want to jump ship now, they are abandoning something that actually may be robust. And we might have to have a bit of a scrap on board as to who's in charge and where it's going, but we haven't altered course yet. It's to carry on with the analogy, okay? I constantly hear traditionalists, evangelicals and Catholics going, we're going to change course. It's so obvious, we're going to change course. And my response is, well, grab hold of the steering wheel and make sure it goes in the right direction. If you get, if you get thrown off the steering wheel and shot at and told to go away, then jump into your lifeboat. But you can still make that steering wheel go in the right direction. But it needs courage, and it needs Kevin, is for men and women to be prepared to stand up and say, and when the steering wheel starts to go off course, be prepared to stand up and publicly say, the wheel needs to go back here, we need to go back in that direction, and if you as a leader try to steer it off, we will try and bring it back on course, and we will hold you accountable for taking it off course.
I kind of have a better analogy.
Yeah?
If a ship is sinking, maybe the rats will leave first.
Well, do you know what? I don't think the ship is sinking yet. I think there are icebergs ahead.
Okay.
But if we think that the way to avoid the icebergs is to abandon the lookout post, then we have another thing coming.
Okay.
Right?
The breaking news today is something that's happened in a church in the Church of England. A lot of people said the worst thing that ever could have happened is maybe if an Archbishop of Canterbury became a Druid, which would never happen. That's
well, for the record, he didn't. But come on.
But let's talk about the breaking news today out of the Church of England.
So, breaking news as we came on air, as we recorded, I've just seen a video of a Muslim worship service, a Muslim act of worship, taking place in a Church of England church in Southwark Diocese. Okay? Words fail me. The fact that this was meant to be a sort of, this is badged as an inclusive service with a female imam preaching and so on. Actually, the guy I saw on the video leading prayers was a guy. This was a clear Muslim prayers in a Church of England church. And how many canons have we violated, right there? The oath that I make to only use authorized forms of worship when I was ordained, and every position I take as a Church of England priest, just torn up right there. And what is happening to the Church of England? And will there be action against this? Because I think this might be in Southwark Diocese. This is a church that is already doing Thanksgiving services for civil partnerships and for gay marriages. I think this might be a straw that breaks the camel's back.
We'll have to
I really do.
see. I mean, or maybe Rowan's prediction of a Sharia law and English law working together at one point can work within the Church of England. Yeah. I
I'm
hate
just not gonna. I'm just
I
not
hate
gonna
to
go there.
I hate to
I'm
pick
just.
at him twice in
You're
one
just
episode.
baiting me now. You are baiting me now. That's just. Get thee behind me, Kevin.
All right. Well, this is what happens when the whole world changes from Eastern Standard to daylight savings time. Our clocks are off. I haven't finished my coffee yet. It's one of those days. Peter, I want to thank you for your time. You've been most gracious. This is going to be one of the most watched episodes today. No, of the month, I
Do you
hope.
think?
Thank you so much for your time. I'm Kevin Carlson.
I'm the Reverend Peter Old.